Action.
Welcome to Off Camera, the UC Film Society radio show all about movies. I'm Ollie.
I'm Jake.
And I'm Cam.
And we'll be your directors for this episode. Today, we will be deep diving into Saltburn and completing a game of Pick Your Moment. Jake, Cam, welcome back.
Hello.
Hello.
Second week of this second season.
It's a pleasure to be here. I feel so
That's
good.
awesome.
Movies are so back. We're so back.
We have so much planned for this
We're
season as
so
well.
back.
So,
Awesome.
let's jump right into it. Jake, what have you watched recently?
I've watched a ton. I watched Spielberg Saving Private Ryan. I watched Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master and There Will Be Blood. Rewatched two of my favorite films. I watched Spielberg's Adventures of Tintin for the first time.
For the first time?
Yeah, I'd never seen it before.
That's crazy.
I probably saw it when I was a kid, but I had no remembrance of it.
That is crazy.
I'm just going to shut up.
Because you haven't seen it.
No, I
Yes.
haven't seen
It's
it.
so good,
It's one
right?
of his coolest movies.
Yeah.
Great adventure
You
film.
know they spent like 20 or 30 years just trying to get it made.
Yeah, Peter Jackson being involved with it is awesome. And, you know, I read about like the development of that film and it seems crazy. And
Yeah.
they really pulled it off. I would love a sequel. Everything Spielberg's...
They are apparently still working on a sequel,
Peter
which
Jackson's
is
directing.
good. Yeah, that'll be
everything
really
Spielberg
cool.
doing with the camera in that movie is so cool. There's so many just great one-shots that just make me so happy.
Yeah, no, it's such an underrated movie.
Yeah.
Like animation, we've had on a whole episode on it, and we did talk about it a little bit then, but
Barely, though. Like,
barely, yeah. But it's like Spielberg is not known for doing animation, and
It's his only animated film.
well, yeah, exactly. And it's, I don't know, it's just so underrated as not just a Spielberg movie, but
Mhm.
an animated movie and a
Uh-huh.
movie as a whole.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, definitely.
And and it feels like a spiritual successor to Indiana Jones, more so
Absolutely.
than the new Indiana Jones film we got, you know?
Well, Herge, the creator of
Yeah.
Tintin, pretty much said he only wanted Spielberg
Mm.
to do it
Mm.
because of Indiana Jones and like his pitch for it.
And I remember loving the books as a kid, so I think I want to go back and read
They're
them
good
now.
fun, yeah.
Mm.
I also watched Contagion, Steven Soderbergh's 2011 movie about a pandemic breaking out. Very scary to watch after the events of 2020. It's really crazy how he kind of made this film that would be so prescient later in our years. People, when COVID happened, people looked at this movie. It was like, how did he kind of predict this, even though he didn't, you know?
Bill
it's-
Gates has been saying it since the 90s, though.
Yeah.
You
well,
know.
Bill Gates and Soderbergh both predicted the future.
Well, I remember in 2019, there were all the memes going around about like, oh, in 1720 there was a plague. In 1820 there was a plague. In 1920 there was a plague. Wouldn't it be so funny if in 2020 there was a plague and then, yeah, it wasn't funny.
And then China was like, hold my beer.
I watched Rain Man, which is a 1988 Best Picture winner, starring Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise. They play long-lost brothers who reunite. Really great family movie about a relationship. Two great actors acting against each other. So I
Are
had a
they
good
that
time.
similar in age?
No, it was very weird.
Yeah.
The age difference. So that's like the one problem with the movie. But I guess, you know, you take
Mm.
what you can get.
Yeah,
I also
past
yeah,
problems if it's a good fun movie.
Yeah, I also watched The Marvels for the first time because that came onto Disney Plus. Didn't really like it. The plot was bad. The villain was bad. Iman Vellani. I always get her name wrong. She's amazing. Everything with Kamala and her family is great. It's some good fun, but I just think,
We'll-
you know,
We'll
Yeah,
deep
you
dive
you
in
and
next
I have
week.
talked a little bit about it outside of this podcast,
Mhm.
but the first half is like really good.
yeah, it's good.
because it's
Yeah.
really fun,
Yeah.
and it's just the character relationships. But
Mm.
anything after that,
Mm.
it just like because it goes too deep into the
Mhm.
villain and the plot, and it's like, well, it would just be fun if it was just a
Yeah.
wacky movie. I
Mm.
think you said to me, if it was just about them struggling, with
Doesn't
their
even need to have a
powers-
villain.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
need a villain, and then they could be the ones who tear the hole
Yeah.
open in space
Yeah.
with their powers, and then it would be the same movie, but it would just be more fun.
It has a short runtime, so it has to move quickly, which is good, but also means it has to focus a lot on the story and leave out key character moments, which are the best part about that film, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyway, I also rewatched The Batman, which is one of my favorite comic book movies ever. Definitely in my like top 5. I love the Batman as a character, and this is like the peak of Batman movies. even though The Dark Knight is probably a better movie, this is like the best Batman comic book, interpretation in my opinion. The cinematography from Greg Fraser, who we'll talk about later, he's just a god. It's crazy stuff. And Michael Giacchino's score is also one of my favorites. That score is so good. And I watched Anatomy of a Fall for the first time in theaters, Best Picture nominee. Really loved it. Really great courtroom drama. Super long. It's like 2 hours 40 minutes, but it's super engaging all the way through. Great acting, great writing. I rewatched Barbie, fun movie. Ryan Gosling's great.
One day, very soon, I'll be able to talk about that.
That'll be fun.
And
I'm curious to hear your
Oppenheimer
thoughts.
with you.
Definitely we'll talk
I
about
will
that.
have thoughts.
And finally, last night, we all went to see Dune Part One in the theaters.
We did.
And we will be, we'll talk about that in a little bit. We're going to do, like I said earlier, a pick your moment, and that will be on June. But let's talk about the experience of going and seeing Dune together.
Yeah.
Not the movie itself, but just that was, it's such a good movie to experience.
It was so much fun to see that
Like,
with you guys.
I had never seen it in cinemas.
Mm.
I'd only ever seen it on TV, and it's completely different. The soundtrack, just like, it's so loud and rumbling, we would feel it in our seats. It's such an exciting movie.
The
to
sound design
experience
is
in cinemas.
literally some of the best I've ever heard.
If I could have one wish list,
Mhm.
like one thing on a wish list for a home cinema, subwoofers that shake the seat, like
Yes.
that made the film. This is the first time I'd seen it, and it's definitely in my top 5 favorite sci-fi
Oh, me too.
movies,
Yeah.
not including Star Wars, that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And the amount of world building that they were able to do in such a short time was just stunning.
And they've really like taken the book, because it's based on a book, and it's not an original story, but they've made enough changes to it just in pacing and presentation and stuff like that it really stands out as like a well-made, distinct story from other sci-fi movies in the same sort of style. So it's cool like that.
The film is the example of why I go to movies. To see something I've never seen before, to have a experience that, kind of speaks to your eyes, your ears. Like, it does everything a movie should do, in my opinion. It doesn't tell a complete story because it is a part one, right? But it does still have a satisfying story with character arcs, in my opinion. And yeah, just the things you see and the things you hear are literally out of this world. And it was so cool to see it with you, Cam, who had never seen it before.
Yeah, I love
awesome.
watching a movie that I've seen before with people who haven't. It's just cool to get them experience the hype that you've already experienced.
Especially because I was pretty sure you would love it too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like
there's no doubt about it.
I have the
after all
DVD
stuff we've
at
talked
home.
about.
and I've had the DVD at home for ages, but I just haven't got around to watching it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No, it's
this
good you got
was-
to experience it for the first time
Oh,
in
yeah.
theaters.
I reckon I might go and buy the Blu-ray. Just
Yeah, I
because.
want the 4K. I'm going to get the 4K pack when
$40.
2 comes out, hopefully.
That'll be like $60-$70.
Yeah, I'll ask for it as
Steelbook.
for a gift. We got to see part 2 footage
I
after
feel it's
the
tax
part 1.
deductible.
Yeah.
Tax
It must be tax deductible. You do a radio show.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah,
we saw.
Oh, yeah.
we saw part 2 footage.
It was
cool.
coupled, so it was like something that it was more for people who've seen it before
Mm-hmm.
and were
Yeah.
keen for the second one. So we got 10-minute featurette of
Mhm.
a couple of clips and then a whole scene from Dune Part
We got a
2,
scene, which is a really cool scene.
which we're not going to spoil.
No, go and watch Dune so that you can watch Dune Part 2 when it comes out.
Yeah, see this movie on the biggest screen possible if you can, because it
Yeah.
really benefits. Like, I've never watched it at home, and I'm sure it's great, but I can't imagine, like, the difference is so crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's very, very different.
Yeah.
Cam, apart from Dune, what have you watched in the past week?
Apart from Dune, my goodness, I watched The House with the Clock in Its Walls, which was it's okay.
It's a fun Jack Black movie.
It's fun.
It's
Love Jack Black.
I like a magic movie for kids. It's fun.
It was okay. I gave it a 2.
Can't remember what I gave it.
Jack Black was the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
I also watched Tall Girl. Sorry, I watched the first 20 minutes of Tall Girl and then turned it off and gave it the lowest rating I could, which is half a star. Unfortunately, that's a bit generous. On another note, though, I watched Tar, which was amazing.
So good.
Kate Blanchett,
Yeah.
best performance ever.
It's one of the best performances I've seen, like, just ever.
Yeah. And then
It's so
the
good.
cinematography, there's one scene that stands out specifically for me, and it's when she's teaching the class.
The scene is
It's all one
unreal.
shot. It's one shot, but it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like one shot. And I really liked it.
That is a
And-
perfect scene.
Yeah, I know. Oh.
Yeah. And it's a great tone setter for the rest of the film because it's really slow paced, but you're really
It's
in it all the
engaging.
time, really engaging.
Yeah.
If you don't like that scene, you won't like the movie, and I feel like that sets it apart. It's
There
great
were
movie.
lots of unique shots though
Yeah.
that I really liked. Yeah, I would highly recommend Tar. It's
Mhm.
on. I think it's on Netflix.
It's on
now.
Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah, and then finally I watched Dune,
Mhm.
but I also watched The Has Been Hotel on Amazon, which is a musical cartoon for adults, very very much for adults. But I actually enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a unique cartoon. All the characters were really cool. I wish there was a lot less swearing because there was a lot of swearing
Mhm.
and it didn't feel like it really fit. Some characters did it really well and I like that. You'll see it if you watch it. It's on Amazon.
Mhm.
But it's a really cool show and I think there should be a season 2 coming out in a little bit.
The animation looks pretty cool in that.
Yeah, it's a cool animation.
What have you been watching recently, Ollie?
I've been watching Ted Lasso.
Mhm.
I think I talked about it last week, but I watched more
It's really
in
good.
the time since. We're nearly finished.
Nice.
Got maybe 3 or 4 episodes left. Yeah, really keen to. Well, not keen to see the end of it because it might be the end of the show as a whole, but keen to see what happens at the end and like get that resolved storyline. Hopefully,
Have you cried yet?
yeah, many times.
Good.
If I
you-
watched.
Watch that show and don't cry. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, so many tear-worthy moments.
Tearjerkers.
Yeah.
Mm.
I watched Demon Slayer. Yeah, caught up to date on that. And then
Cool.
I also watched Dune,
Yes.
which we're going to talk about right now. So,
great stuff.
Pick
So-
your moment.
we are not here to rate, to deep dive, to analyze Dune,
Mm-hmm.
but since we all loved it so much, let's quickly give our ratings and our favorite. We won't do our favorite moments because we're going to do pick your moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's different to your favorite moment, after we've all done our pick your moments, you can say what your favorite moment is. But we'll say our pick your moments first. And if it's not your favorite moment,
Okay.
then say,
Yeah.
but my favorite moment
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Okay.
Should we do the cone of silence for whoever starts to deep dive?
Okay.
If you start deep
I'm gonna
diving,
get a cone of silence real quick.
shush for 1 minute.
But let's start off by doing our ratings.
Okay.
So Jake, what would you rate it?
I gave it a 5 out of 5. I am really easy to please when a movie does like all that. It's maybe not a perfect movie. Like you could give it some gripes with some messy CGI in the first half, as you noted. I did kind of notice that too, and maybe the storytelling with it being weirdly paced because it's a part one. But for me, I find it really hard to nitpick when it gives me such a pure experience like that. When I saw it for the first time back in 2021, I gave it a 4. I was feeling really ill that day, so I feel like my thoughts were a bit complicated on that. So it was nice to revisit it and really feel like I know what I think of it now.
Yeah.
No.
I'd definitely give it at least 4.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going 4.5. I don't know that the CGI issue, like I say issues, there are some moments in the first third that I only noticed when I watched it on a big screen, like on the cinema screen, that maybe the CGI wasn't as good as, like, it's lauded for having such fantastic CGI, and it does. Like, the rest of the movie was fantastic, no problems.
Yeah.
It was just like that first
Yeah.
maybe 45 minutes, I noticed some things that looked a little bit iffy, but it was only minor.
It was like the shadows on some of the ships
Yeah.
taking off.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're paying real
And the
close
water
attention.
when the ship comes
Oh,
out of
that-
the water.
That bit I noticed and was terrible.
And the
Yeah,
bit when
just-
his
I'll
mask
say that.
comes down and he's
Yeah.
battling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think those are enough to, like, take it down that half star. I
Mhm.
think it's more I'm leaving room to watch it
Right,
again in
right.
the future, and so I'm not disappointed and then taking it down half a star.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it could get 5 stars, but whenever I give a movie 5 stars, I'm then nervous to watch it again.
Right. Fair
Because
enough.
if I don't like it, then it's going down in rating instead of up in rating.
Yeah,
Mm.
true. That's a good
Mm.
point. I also think you could leave room to see Dune 2 as well, because then you
Exactly.
might have like a complete story.
But
Which
I
is
don't think the
a fair-
pacing is bad.
Yeah, I don't think so
think-
either.
Like, it's a long movie.
Yeah.
It's a long book.
Mm-hmm.
I think the pacing is fine.
I like the pacing.
Especially, like, considering it's a part 1, like, I think
Mhm.
it feels like a complete-ish movie. Like, obviously, there are a lot of arcs that aren't rounded out,
Mm-hmm.
but, like, it's a solid movie.
Mm.
It just, like, the story is, like, cut off at the end
Yeah.
because you're about to finish them in the next one.
As Zendaya says, this is just the beginning.
All right, let's talk about that.
No, you need to give your
we're
ratings.
Not deep diving. Yeah, I'm giving it 5.5.
Five and a
Sorry,
half.
4.5. I misspoke. I loved it. The CGI didn't really take me out of the movie.
No,
Like,
definitely
yeah, I
not.
noticed
No,
it,
yeah.
but there was so much else going on that I didn't really affect my viewing of it. However, that line really annoyed me.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
it was
it's
so
really,
cringy.
It's really bad.
And, like, I haven't read the book for years, but it's not in the
Yeah, of
book
course
because the
not.
book,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
the book doesn't end there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
This is
it
only the beginning.
It feels like the only Hollywood moment in the movie.
Yeah, it's
annoyed the shiznit out of me.
It's
But
very annoying.
apart from that, I loved it. Character arcs were awesome. The acting was amazing.
Great performances. And
Yeah.
it doesn't really need great performances, if you know what I mean.
yeah, like, all they really have to do is follow the script
Yeah.
with their regular acting chops, and
Exactly.
it would be good.
Yeah.
But no, they go hard.
Yeah.
And Greg Fraser
Oh my God.
is a legend,
Literally,
as always.
shoot everything, please.
Can we start a petition to get him on the show?
We'll do our best.
We'll
I'll
do
just
our
be
best.
making googly eyes at him the whole time.
Okay, so with
Well-
that being said, it's time to do pick your moment.
Okay.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, Jake's gonna go first. I did not expect that. Okay.
My moment is when Gurney and Paul get put in. Gurney goes to get Paul out in the desert when the sandworm's approaching the first time, and the what's that ship called?
The Spice Harvester.
The Spice Harvester is trying to get lifted, and Paul is having visions in the desert, and he's freaking out, and Gurney goes to grab him, and they go up in the helicopter, and there's this shot of just them looking down at the worm swallowing the harvester,
Mhm.
and it's one of the coolest shots I've ever seen, and the score is going crazy, and that whole sequence is masterfully put together. I love sequences like that just are intense and, so well made, well edited, well paced, well scored, obviously, and just then show you something you haven't seen before. I've never seen a sandworm swallow a ship before. It's so cool, and
I'll raise you one better. I've never seen a sandworm before.
I mean, me neither.
I have.
Oh damn!
And yeah,
the Australian
it's,
outback's wild, man.
it's a breathtaking, show-stopping moment in a movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, they really give you the sense of desert power.
They do, as Oscar Isaac
like,
wonderfully
I
says.
love that theme. I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's
It's really
just so humbling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in before Ollie does, and say that that moment where they're coming out of the ship onto the planet for the first
The
time.
bagpipes.
The one dude with the bagpipe. The entrance was funny as hell.
He like
then-
walks out in front of everyone.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not the Duke.
He's, like,
you're not
blocking
the
the Duke,
biggest
yeah.
guy.
Yeah, it was really funny, and then it became epic.
Like
Mm.
that guy's like, oh yeah, nice bagpipes, and then all of them come in, and
Yeah.
it's so powerful. Like goosebumps straight away.
That moment is like, well, I know we're meant to be like eating the handful of popcorn, but that's when I stop eating popcorn and just watch
Yeah.
and just
You're really
take
locked
it in.
into like
Yeah.
everything that's happening.
I actually did that. I forget which moment it was, but I did that when we were watching it.
It might be the movie to give me the most goosebumps when I'm watching it.
Yeah.
Well, the score by Hans Zimmer just like smashes it out of the ballpark. So,
Absolutely.
like a good score in intense moments should give you goosebumps.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of moments. One that I really like is when when Paul and his mum and Duncan are hiding out in the ecological testing zone,
Yeah.
and the Fremen that are like guarding outside are just sitting there drinking their coffee,
Mm-hmm.
and then one of them notices a shadow,
Mm-hmm.
and they look up, and you can see the Sardaukar enemy at the top, and then the sound fully cuts out, and they jump down, and it's just completely
When
silent.
they float down, right?
Yeah, when they float down,
Yeah.
it's just completely silent,
Great scene.
and they're coming down, and then it tilts down, and you see the empty coffee cup lying half buried, and then like I could say just that moment, but then right after it, the Fremen like jump out of the ground and kill the Sardaukar. It's cool as.
I feel like that moment was a little bit negated by the fact that they cut to a wide shot and it was just like this little tiny scuffle.
Yeah, I agree with that, which is why
troops
it's
either
not
side.
my moment. But that first part of it,
Yeah.
when the sound just cuts
It's
out,
so good.
It's so cool.
The shot of them floating down is
Yeah.
amazing.
That was
stuff.
really cool. But overall, it was awesome.
Yeah, and then I think my actual popcorn moment would be towards the end, right before they meet the Fremen, when they have to run from the
Oh my God,
sandworm
yes.
across the sand.
Yes.
Paul falls with all the bags and stuff, gets up, keeps running. They get onto the rock, and then the sandworm comes fully out of the ground and looks at them. And for the first time, you actually get to see the scale of a sandworm, and it's so intense. And the mouth looks like an eye. Like all the little teeth give like an iris sort of look. It looks really cool, and it's
one of the
so
coolest things
intense
I've ever seen.
because the sandworm could eat them just because they're not in the sand. It could just go like down and grab them,
Yum.
but they have this like standoff, and then it gets called away, and you don't know what would have happened otherwise. Like maybe Paul would have had some Messiah moment where he like went go away, and it just fled.
He pulls a hiccup.
Yeah, maybe he tamed it right then.
That's a great point.
Maybe it ate them,
Yeah.
but instead it got called away.
Yeah.
And that becomes part of the conflict a little bit later with the Fremen they meet. So I think that's got to be
That's a
my moment.
great point. Yeah. I never thought of that. It could be a serial moment, or he could just die.
Yeah.
One moment I do love, I just got to shout out real quick, is when they leave Caladan and that whole sequence of everything getting packed away and Paul on the beach looking towards his destiny, pretty much, and the score is just amazing, and I love that sequence so much. It makes me sad, even though it's so hype.
Anyone with megalophobia though, or what the fear of big things in water, that was pretty like oh.
The ship rising out of the water, the slow
So
reveal is
cool.
so cool.
Yeah. Another really cool moment is the start of the attack on Arrakis.
Yes.
Um,
Such a great sequence.
Because that's also, I think, I don't know the sound designer. It's shame on me. I should have looked it up. But whoever it is, they use silence so well, because that's another moment where it's completely silent. You see the big ship that looks like a sandworm coming in space in the atmosphere, and you look up from the planet and you see it up in the sky, and then all of the ships come raining down and it shoots, like everything's exploding. And that's the big thing they like really hyped up before the movie came out, was like this
That
sequence
sequence,
was in
yeah.
heaps of the trailers, and they were talking about like the massive scale of the battles and the explosions, and it's intense.
There's
It's
some
massive.
great ships and ship fighting in that sequence, and I really love the shot of Josh Brolin just running with everybody as explosions go off behind him with the score. It's another one of those moments where your breath is taken away.
I did just think of another moment, but there's just so many hype moments. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna save it. But
the sound designer, Dave Whitehead,
Give him all the money.
District 9 and Blade Runner 2049.
Blade Runner
there
2049
you go.
is
So,
another Denis movie that
no
is
wonder.
just... Denis is probably the best director of all time at showing scale and showing you something epic, truly epic and out of this world.
So
Cool.
that's June. We will be watching Dune Part 2 and
Oh,
talking about
we will.
that. And that will be in only a couple of
Yeah.
weeks. So
We'll be
that's
talking
really
about
exciting.
both these movies a lot
Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah. So that's exciting.
Love me some Dune.
Yeah.
So Saltburn.
But now it's time to deep dive Saltburn.
Wow, what a nosedive.
What a contrast.
Yeah.
They're two very different movies.
Can we talk about Dune?
Whether
again?
you like Saltburn or not, it's hard to deny it's a completely different experience to Dune.
Mm.
It doesn't have the same grandeur. It doesn't have the same like punchy impact. Like it's a powerful film in its ways, but it's very different.
It's
from
hard to
Dune.
deny its impact, though.
Yes, it's
Mhm.
it's had quite the impact
Mhm.
culturally,
Mhm.
socially.
Mhm.
So
It's dominated the conversation.
so
Yeah.
let's continue and finish that conversation hopefully today.
Let's never talk about it again after this, please. I'm
Well-
sick of hearing about Saltburn.
Okay, so we're
Do you
gonna
wanna-
go.
do you wanna
Jake,
give us a
yeah, give
rundown,
us the
Jake?
rundown. The director, the
Okay. Saltburn is the second directorial film from Emerald Fennell, following 2020's Promising Young Woman. It's written and directed by her, starring Jacob Elordi, Barry Keoghan, Rosamund Pike, and some other key names that I forget.
Richard E.
'cause-
Grant.
Oh, Richard E. Grant. Yes, I always forget that he's in it because his role is so small, but it's very memorable once you see it. Set in Oxford, Barry Keoghan's Oliver Quick comes to Oxford and he meets Jacob Elordi's character, Felix, and Felix kind of takes him under his wing and introduces him to his family and friends at his Saltburn estate over the summer, and they kind of form a bond. And it's about their relationship, but it's also about Oliver's relationship to his entire family and how he kind of ingratiates himself. It's a black comedy. It's a thriller. It's been blending a lot of genres together. It's definitely an out there movie. It does a lot of things. It's got a great soundtrack, and it's very very millennial, if you know what I mean. It definitely
it's set 2006.
it's definitely geared towards our generation and trying to market it towards us in many ways with the soundtrack, with Jacob Elordi, with
Yeah.
just the way it's shot, the 4:3 aspect ratio, all that stuff. It's a movie that has dominated, as we said, and yeah, I mean, I saw it first in November before really there was a lot about it. I don't really like her first film, Promising Young Woman, and I definitely like this a bit more. So, and by the trailers, I thought I would because of the people in it, because of the setting, because of the story. It still has tons of problems. I liked it, and my opinion has definitely soured on it with more time, with more thought. And I never thought it was amazing, but and then some people think it's amazing, and I just disagree with that. I've got a lot of thoughts on the movie, which we'll get into, but yeah, that's Saltburn.
Okay. Well, do we
So-
want to start with?
the acting.
Let's start with the performances in this film,
Yeah.
because there was quite a range of really good actors
Mhm.
in this film, and their performances were quite varied, I'd say.
I think to talk about the best performance,
Well,
Rosamund Pike.
She's definitely a scene stealer in this movie.
Yeah.
She does the most with every scene she gets, and she's really funny. I wish she was in it more,
yeah. She
but
doesn't,
also good.
she doesn't
she
get
is.
enough screen
Yeah.
time, but when she's there, she's great. I think
Mhm.
she's fantastic.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
Barry does a fantastic
Barry
job.
is-
I mean, he's the
Yeah.
main character.
The only reason
But-
this film works is because of him.
Yes.
He
I-
is
I would
one of my
agree with
favorite actors working today, and I'd watch him in anything.
hasn't he been pegged as the next Joker?
He
yeah,
is
he
the
is
Joker.
the next Joker.
Alright,
He was
alright.
he had vocal lines in the Batman,
There was a
and
deleted
then
scene.
there was a deleted scene
Mhm.
where he was in makeup and everything, and he looks scary.
It's a great scene,
very
too.
scary.
Oh, that's where I thought
yeah,
it from.
his
Okay, yeah,
mouth is so
It's very-
deformed, and it looks it's
It's
very,
very
cool.
Ledger-esque.
Yes, but
Mm.
even more extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really.
I'm
cool.
excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, and based on his performance in this, I think it'll be very intriguing.
It's a good
That
addition
would
for
be
the
a
Joker.
very interesting Joker.
yeah.
Yeah. Oliver
So-
Quick is sort of like the Joker in
Oliver
many
Quick,
ways.
but he's the Joker.
he's
Uh,
he's
That-
the Joker who's a bit more sexual. Shall we say?
Mhm. Yeah. What about worst performance?
whoever plays Farley, Archie Maddock.
Close.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
How do you spell it?
Madekwe. Madekwe.
Yeah. It's not an awful performance. I just think it sticks out when he's acting alongside Rosamund Pike, Barry Keoghan, Jacob Elordi, who's also great in this movie, I think.
I think, yeah, it's definitely not the best performance in the movie. I wouldn't say it's not the worst acting like ever. It's just distinct and different from the rest of the performances in a way that doesn't work for the film. And
Yes.
like that character is distinct and different from the rest of the characters. He's the only person of color. He's American when the rest of them are British. But yeah, it's just not quite
I don't
fully
like
there.
It's not there.
character
It's not there.
at all.
The
It doesn't
character-
feel like it fits at all.
The character sucks, and I hate that character archetype. The one that's like the jealous friend who, when Oliver Quick is kind of the new guy, the new person for Felix. That character archetype is so boring to me, and I don't feel like it did anything new with it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. And then Jacob Elordi, what do we think of his performance?
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah.
He
Good.
you can
Fantastic.
tell why Oliver Quick would be so kind of obsessed with Felix. He really has that presence on screen. Very tall, very very brooding.
Yeah, Jacob Elordi
Yeah.
is like massively.
Yeah,
tall.
I'm a fan of his. He's not like the greatest actor ever, of course, but like
He has
always
a presence.
he's always like he always sticks out to you.
Yeah, and he's played it well
Mhm.
in this movie.
I'm bummed that he died there.
Felix.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was cool.
Yeah,
He was a really
we'll get
nice
into the
character,
story, but after
but
he
yeah.
dies, the film just goes.
Yeah, I do like the scenes preceding it with the funerals. That was really good.
Yeah, some well shot scenes.
But
there.
apart from that, the story kind of dropped off. I didn't really like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, like there was after he dies and then after all of the grieving.
Yeah.
I think after the grieving it goes
yeah,
down.
true.
Because one of the best scenes is after that. As we've talked about, the red scene at the dinner table.
That scene didn't really work for me.
I thought you said it was one that you really liked.
I don't remember saying.
Never mind then. Okay. Anyway,
Maybe I did.
Speaking of that scene though, Richard E. Grant's performance.
Mm.
He wasn't really given a lot to work with.
Yeah, no.
I think
No.
he was really like he played a guy who was pretty positive, a rich white guy who was pretty positive throughout most of the movie, and then had a breakdown when his son died. And he played that well, but he didn't. Yeah, he wasn't on screen a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have liked to see
But
him.
whatever he
get
did,
more to
he
do, too.
completely smashed it. And
Yeah, absolutely.
he did a really good job. Yeah.
He's great. He's funny. He's
He's a great
charismatic.
actor.
Yeah. I
So
just
what would
realised-
we give acting out of 5?
I'd give it a 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4.
I'm with you there. I'll give it a 4.
Barry Keoghan's performance is like a 5 out of 5, and Rosamund Pike's is pretty close to that too. And
But
Jacob Elordi's great, but like as a whole, it's not
Farley
like
brings it down.
yeah.
to a 4.
And then
I'm sorry.
yeah,
He has too much of a.
yeah.
The
place in
person
the
who
story.
plays Venetia also did a fantastic job.
She's really good. I like those scenes with her and Barry, especially the one in the bathtub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that
at the end.
bathtub
At
scene.
the end. Of
Yeah.
At the end of the movie. That's good. Yeah.
Mm. All right. Next category: sound.
I think the sound
Audio in
design.
general?
I think the sound design is not particularly noticeable
Yeah.
in a way that is like it's good. Like it doesn't stand out for being bad.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't also stand out for being good, but I would rather not notice sound
Mm-hmm.
than the sound be really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you notice it and it's
Mhm.
bad, that's going to be grating.
It's
But
not really trying to do anything crazy with its sound design. It's really good in like some of those early scenes at Oxford, like in the pub where you're hearing people
Yeah,
talking
I think,
around
like,
you.
It's good enough to make you feel like you're in the environments you're in,
Mhm. Yeah.
which is fantastic.
Yeah.
That's what you want. It's not like it does a good job at doing what it's trying to do, which is that.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't try and do anything unique like Dune with its silence or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, the soundtrack is really good.
Yeah,
Like
great
all the
soundtrack.
music that
Yeah.
plays in the film, not the score necessarily, but the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've
Mm.
got Mr. Brightside and they've got a bunch of
Mhm.
other topical songs, and yeah, they work really well.
Those scenes were the best part about the movie for me. When it was just a soundtrack and you would see a montage or a sequence with no dialogue. Funny enough, the script is awful. I just think whenever it was showing the visuals and the music and these actors being charismatic with each other. Those are the best scenes. I specifically love the montage set to Time to Pretend by MGMT, where they play tennis with champagne or whatever.
Yeah.
That sequence
That's
is good.
great.
For, in my
However,
opinion.
actually, no, I'll talk about that in production design. Don't worry.
Okay.
Don't worry. That's not really this. But yeah, the soundtrack was pretty good, but the score didn't really stand out to me at all.
Yeah, like
It
I don't
was
think
like
it was
your
bad.
standard-
It was just there.
Yeah.
So what are we rating sound? What are we rating sound?
3.
3.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, actually, there we go. Next one. Production design. Yay. It wasn't great, I'll be honest. They could have done so much more with what they had. Like the party scenes were so generic. And even at Saltburn, like they had an amazing place to work with, an amazing house, but they could have done so much more with it.
Interesting.
Inside, sorry. The maze was
Yeah.
awesome. I really liked the maze,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I didn't really stand out to me. I was kind of let down. It felt like something that honestly film students could have made.
Interesting.
I do just want I wonder, because they've got this major set, right? The Saltburn estate, that house is like everything's riding on that, right? I wonder how much of the interior was just like already there, like was part of the set rather than being production design.
Yeah.
Because like I think it fit, it made sense. It just like the soundtrack, like the sound design, sorry, it wasn't unique or pushing the boundaries, but I don't think it necessarily needed to be, because it was just meant to be rich people live in an expensive old British estate, and it fit that vibe like really well.
Yeah.
Like I think it looked really good with that.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying about the party. I think in a way that's good, because like in Oxford they are just students throwing a party, and like it's in a pub and it's just whatever. The party for Oliver's birthday at the end
should be much more extravagant.
It should be much more extravagant in some ways. I liked the exterior stuff on the lawn.
Yeah.
The stuff on the inside, I just felt like it was like red.
Pretty dull.
They just had like
was
red
just
stuff
neon
around
lights.
with
And
Yeah. The party definitely felt like it wasn't for him though.
Well, it definitely wasn't for him.
It definitely wasn't for
Yeah.
him, and that's just rich people wanting to have a party.
Yeah.
To be fair, it fit.
Yeah, they said in the scene when they decided they were going to have a party, who do you want to invite? Invite all your friends. Invite anyone you want. Let us know.
Yeah.
And he's like, and he has no one. Like he doesn't. There's no one to invite. Everyone around that table is who he would invite.
Yeah.
And then they go, who are you? What are you reckoning? 100 people? No, 200. And it's like obviously
He doesn't.
none
know
of those
that many
people are his friends. Like they're just people that they want to invite.
Or just like when they singing happy birthday to him and they forget his name, or they don't. They just don't. They never knew it to begin with.
That was a clever moment.
it's pretty good. Yeah.
It just shows the rich
Yeah.
scumbag.
I'm a pretty big fan of the production design of this movie. Like you said,
Yeah.
I agree with the party stuff, especially the indoor stuff. But I love all the stuff at Oxford inside the dorm rooms,
Yeah.
and I love the Saltburn estate in comparison to Oliver's
Like
family house.
Felix's room
Yeah.
in Oxford,
It's perfect.
they would have spent so much time setting that up, because there's just stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Empty bottles, tissues. It's just
It makes
gross
so
in
much
there.
sense for that person's type of
Yeah.
room. So I thought it was one of the, the bright spots of the film for me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I
I
love
agree.
the look of the film with both the cinematography, which we'll get into, and the production design as a whole. Really
Yeah.
worked for me.
Okay. What would you give it?
4 out of 5. Like you say, it's got some issues and it's not like the greatest thing you've ever seen, but I think it really works for what the film is going for.
Yeah, I'm tossing up between 3.5 and 4.
Mhm.
Probably 4.
Okay. I'm gonna give it a 3.
Three.
Yeah. Next category, cinematography.
One thing I didn't like, the aspect ratio.
Yep. 100%.
It makes no sense for this film.
I don't like 4:3 ever. Like,
Interesting.
I think it has its place. Like, I would never choose to make a film 4:3 myself, because I just much rather look at 16:9. But 4:3 works narratively in a film when the characters feel trapped and confined in some way, because that's what it feels like. Like half the screen feels like it's gone because it's been compressed into this square rather than being a nice long wide picture. And so if it feels like the story is about people being trapped, then 4x3 is fine, and like I'm happy with it. Like I said, I wouldn't do it myself, but I enjoy it in that, and that's someone else's creative decision, and I respect that. Like The Whale is the last cinematic like movie I saw in cinemas that was in 4x3.
It makes so much sense for that movie.
It made a lot of sense. It worked really well. I enjoyed that movie, and that didn't bring it down.
Right.
But in this, they're not trapped.
I have no idea what
it's like that's. There is. When we get into story, we can talk about this more, but like you could argue that maybe he's trapped. Maybe Oliver's trapped in his own mind, but it's not the main theme. Is that being trapped? It's more like a divide is the main theme between class, between race, between like all these sorts of things, mental, like intellect. So I think it's more a divide is that main theme rather than being trapped. And so I don't think 4x3 was the right choice.
I think all the stuff at Saltburn Estate is kind of about grandiosity and showing you everything, and you don't see everything with 4x3. I think for those party sequences, you should be seeing everything because it's about all the stuff that's going on, not just, this one. I don't know. It makes no sense. And it bugs
4x3 is really good for close-ups, but
there are some good close-ups.
There was some really good
there's
close-ups,
a great shot.
But I don't think there were enough to warrant it being in that format for the whole thing. There's a shot that specifically stands out to me is when Oliver just gets out of the taxi and he's walking up the driveway to the gate of the Saltburn Estate, and it's in 4x3, and it felt really cramped. It's
an extreme wide shot,
and it's an extreme wide shot. It should be showing absolutely everything, showing the grandiose of this house that's amazing. We should have been able to see the maze in the back. We should have been able to see the pond and the swimming pool, but we can see some trees and the house at the end. Like, the house is nice, but it was lacking.
It was
really lacking. It felt like they were like, let's make this an artsy film, but not that artsy. So we'll do it 4x3. We'll do it 4x3. We'll see how that goes.
That being said, though, apart from the aspect ratio, the cinematography is stunning.
Oh, huge fan.
It's like adorable to look at. Like, it's so cool. The color grading is amazing. It's gone viral. Like, other people are color grading their films, their videos, their photos that way. It just looks stunning.
Yeah.
And there are some shots that are amazing. Like, there's a shot with Oliver looking out of the Oxford window and you see his face reflected a couple of times, and that looks really cool.
Great shot.
There's a shot right after Felix dies with Richard E. Grant holding umbrellas over both groups of people.
Correction. You did say that last time we were talking about it. When we were talking about it before. It's actually the butler.
Is it actually?
Yeah.
Is it not Richard E. Grant?
No, but you said it like 4 times or something when we were talking about it. And then I went and had a look at the shot, and it's actually the butler.
There you go. Well,
sorry to be a nitpicking now.
I don't care who it is, but that shot is really cool. There are heaps of stunning shots.
Yeah.
And the location helps. That a lot of it's lit naturally because a lot of it's set outside. Cam's just showing me.
Sorry, there we go. There's the photo. You can see.
So it is.
Yeah.
There you go. My bad. But that shot is still a very cool shot.
Great shot.
And then, like I said, it's a lot of it's set outside, so there's a lot of natural light. Yeah, it's just stunning to look at.
Yeah.
And that really helped me get through it. Is like at least what I was looking at was nice.
Yeah.
Easily my favorite part about the film. One of my favorite cinematographers working, Linus Sandgren. I don't know. He's Damien Chazelle's cinematographer, did La La Land, did Babylon. Babylon, similarly, a movie about grandiosity. That's not in 4:3. Lots of one takes similar to this one. He's great, and I think the cinematography in this is pretty flawless. If only he didn't shoot it in 4:3.
He also did No Time to Die.
Yeah. Well shot movie too.
Yeah. One of the best parts about that movie. But yeah, overall, Ollie, what are you giving cinematography?
4.
Yeah, I'd give it a 4 too.
Okay. Yeah, I'd definitely give it a 4. The 4x3 brought it down.
It would probably be a 5 for me without the 4-3.
I would be intrigued to hear what the executives have to say about why they chose 4x3.
Yeah.
Mm.
I want
Because
to hear an explanation.
ultimately, it all comes down to a creative choice.
Explain yourself.
It all comes
Yeah.
down to a creative choice, and they could have decided that before like anything else. It could have been right at the start. They were just like, I know I want to make this movie 4x3,
Yeah.
even before they'd like put it all together and the themes had come out and everything. Like they were just
It would have worked if it was set in the 60s and it was 4x3.
because then it would
And it would have been the same. Oxford's been around forever.
yeah.
They could have done the exact same thing and it would have fit a lot better, I think.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
I would love to hear what she thinks her decision behind making it 4-3
Mm.
Emerald.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it might not have been her decision. It might have been Linus's decision.
Or yeah, true.
Let me have a look. So this was shot on, I believe it was the Arriflex 435 Extreme. So it's 35mm
Mm-hmm.
negative film, which I think is that 3x2? I think it's 3x2. So they chopped the edges off it as well.
Yeah.
3x2 is slightly wider, and that
Mm.
would have probably been better for the film. But yeah, they chopped the edges off it.
Yeah, so it wouldn't have been 16:9
No.
unless they cropped it to be that. But it also wasn't naturally 4x3. They have already altered it to make it look the way it did.
Yeah,
Mm.
4.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's good. It's really good.
Final category. Where this is
Oh,
going
this
to
is
get.
we
gonna
have
be-
a
this is
lot
gonna-
to
this is
talk
the
about
biggest.
here.
There's a lot to unpack.
This is the
here.
biggest part to talk about.
We'll
So
try and keep it concise, but
I've got a lot of
there's
thoughts.
Jake has a lot of bad words he wants to
I'm
say
sure you
about
guys
this
do too.
movie.
I have a lot of
Um,
thoughts.
Yeah.
So, final category. Let's talk about the story. Jake, why don't you go first?
God awful. Emerald Fennell is a garbage writer. I'm sorry to be harsh. The Promising Young Woman script has so many problems. This has so many problems. I wish she would work with a different writer because she's such a talented visual filmmaker, but her scripts are just trash. I mean, the first 2/3 of this film are good. Like the stories works well for me. I like some of the aspects of it. Not all of it works, but and then the third act is one of the most rushed, one of the worst third acts I've ever seen. It completely nosedives. It does so many cliche, problematic things. I've got so many issues with it. I hate the story.
Both of her films have 7.5 on IMDb.
Mm.
So like they're pretty well liked.
Yeah.
I'm just intrigued. Like I haven't seen Promising Young Women,
Mm-hmm.
but I've heard pretty much everyone likes it.
It's a good
except for
film.
you.
I just think
So I'm intrigued. But this one, I think it's a commentary. Like ultimately, if you boil it down to it, this movie is a commentary on class divides, on like essentially the rich in England and throughout the world, exploitation of family, adoption, and how that fits, like how like family values with adoption, racism.
Mm-hmm.
It's got so many different points that it's trying to make a statement on, and that's admirable and like good on them for wanting to comment on all these issues, but that it falls flat too much.
Absolutely.
I don't necessarily think that the concept was bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think the execution
Yes.
was just,
Absolutely.
they tried to do too much and it didn't quite hit the mark.
Yeah.
And like you say, the ending's a little bit rushed. But I think that's because they're trying, like, the Cattons, the rich family, are not the main characters.
No.
Like, Oliver,
Mm-hmm.
this sociopathic guy who infiltrates a family to essentially take
Steal
their
everything.
wealth,
Yeah.
like, he is the main character. And that, like, there's been multiple movies where the villain or the protagonist has been a bad person, but I don't think that's the negative part. I think the negative part is that they tried to do all this commentary and it's just, it doesn't gel with Oliver's story. Like his story is, it's not like he's taking them down because they are a terrible rich family. They are just a normal rich family.
Mm.
And like, as soon as you earn a certain amount of money, you in some way become like a negative person. But like, that's not the commentary. The commentary is on, all those other things. Like Farley, he has been accepted by the family as like the adopted son. But has he been accepted? No, not really, because as soon as he does one thing wrong, he's gone. But then he makes a comment, it's not about like me being adopted, it's about me being black. Like, I don't think those are the exact words he uses, but that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the commentary like of his character, is how probably the Cattons adopted him because it makes them look good. And as soon as he does something to shame them, well, they no longer look good. So off he goes. And he was given, like Venetia says, he was given more than them. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I wasn't raised with them. But yeah, they're making this commentary.
This is actually a documentary,
But-
and you were.
They're making this commentary on like that sort of like social, racial, and class divide.
Yeah.
But it's such a like, that's not what the story's about. Like,
Yeah.
Oliver's just doing his own thing,
Yeah.
separate to that, and he uses it as a method to like start demolishing the family and making it crumble. But his story has nothing to do with that like commentary, and I think that's really interesting and one of the reasons it falls flat.
Yes.
Like, the story that we are meant to care about, Oliver's story,
Uh-huh.
has nothing to do with the social commentary that they are trying to make.
And they focus too much on the commentary to flesh out the story enough to make it feel like something you want to watch.
This commentary is also the most basic borderline commentary ever. Like,
Well, it's like, it's not a bad issue to focus on if you only focus on it as its sole thing. But they focus on, well, they bring up like 4 or 5 different issues.
If it had been
doesn't
from
explore these
Jacob's
issues.
perspective, and then not really worried about Ollie.
Yeah.
Jacob's just come back from Oxford, and he's spending the summer at his house with his rich family,
And his friend he's brought along.
And well, not
Or
even
you just cut out
even if you
Ollie.
just cut out Ollie,
yeah.
it's okay.
We can cut you out.
We'll
Well,
cut you out.
I was going to say, it made me more uncomfortable than I expected to have this like really awful character share my name. Like, I was watching it, and anytime they said his name, I was like, ugh.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, no,
Good
that's
thing you're
fair.
Ollie and he's Oliver.
Yes, he does get called Oliver a lot more.
Yeah. But yeah, I reckon if it had been from Jacob's perspective, we cut out Oliver's part altogether, and it was about their relationship with their adopted son Farley, who's kind of an outsider, and then you make that social commentary instead of having this whole weirdo underdog story. It would have been a more effective film, I reckon.
The film introduces like exploring racism, but it doesn't touch on that other than just having that character there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The film, for me, I think is so annoying about it to me is it, like you say, it has all these themes, but it doesn't explore any of them. I think the film thinks it's about so much stuff, but it's not about anything at all. You know what?
Like-
it doesn't explore any of these themes more than just introducing them.
One thing that is interesting is they use this. I think the theme that they explore the most successfully is the class divide, because that's where Oliver is coming from.
Yeah.
And they also use not just him, they have another character who has that same sort of like spot that they're standing from, and that's Pamela, who I noticed in the credits is the character's name is Poor Dear Pamela in the credits,
Yeah.
which is amusing and like fits.
Makes
with
for some
this.
good jokes in that
Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
But I think it's very interesting because she is there, and they talk down about her the same way they talk down about Ollie.
Yeah.
And then when she leaves, Ollie and Elspeth have the scene where they're sitting around talking about her, and he says, "Oh, I think she was lying. Some parts of her story don't add up," and that's like some parts of his story don't add up, and we find out he was lying about his dad dying, his parents being druggies, like lots of it. And then when she dies, it's just like 2 lines. They just say it, and like that's on purpose.
Yeah.
That Elspeth just like, "Oh, Pamela, like that's whose funeral we're going to," and they're like, "She died," and she's like, "Yeah."
Yeah, because I was kind of half watching this and half writing assignments, but I didn't get that she had died until way later, and then went, "Oh, right, that's what that line meant."
Yeah,
but they don't. Yeah, this should be a big consequential death because she was kind of a part of the family, but also kind of not. Still had enough of an impact that you would have thought they would have said more about it.
But that's why I think this class divide is the only sort of successful commentary, because of her character being essentially a foil to Ollie's, in that it's the same character, but she's not trying to kill everyone in the family and take over their wealth. She's just leeching off them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting in that way. I don't think that like redeems the rest of the film in its story, but I do think it is a reasonably successful point, this class divide.
Yeah.
But then they go and squander it at the end. So Jake, do you want to talk about the ending?
It's so bad. It's so bad. Before I get into it, the reveal that Oliver Quick is just writing nonsense on his computer.
Yeah.
I think that's how Emerald Fennell wrote this ending. I can't take
so
credit for
mean.
that. I saw that
That's so
online.
mean.
But
Side note, I
it's just
recognize her
true.
name from somewhere. She plays Camilla in The Crown in the latest
yeah,
series.
she's an actress too. She
Yeah.
was also in Barbie. Yeah, it's revealed that he's been behind it the whole time, and he's been orchestrating every part of his rise to fame at Saltburn. He takes over. He kills Felix. He kills Felix's sister. Don't even know how Richard E. Grant. He dies of natural causes, right?
I think it's implied that he took his own life.
Yeah, that happened
because
just
they
out of
say
nowhere.
he held on so long, so it could be either he died from old age or like heart failure or whatever,
Totally.
or he took his own life.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't really matter because the reason he died, whichever one it was, is stress
Yeah.
Right.
because of everything that happened.
But that's back to like they don't talk about it enough, so it doesn't really have an impact. And it feels like all of the plot development they did and all of the character development around this character, it's like, yeah, they just died. And it doesn't feel worthwhile.
And he meets Rosamund Pike's character in a coffee shop, and he moves into Saltburn with her, and he kills her pretty much.
It was
right?
very like Agatha Christie ending up.
It's literally just like
ending off a Poirot novel, like backtracking through all of the events, and then
like what was this a mystery film? I thought this was just like
along.
a drama, black comedy. I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me. And he now owns Saltburn after she dies, and he dances to Murder on the dance floor, fully naked, and kind of looks at what is it, like a photo of them?
No,
Or like
it's the
the dolls.
Yeah, they had
Yeah.
essentially what was like a puppet show
Mhm.
thing of the family. And I mean, they do a very good job in the final act and a half of showing that he is deranged.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And
that they do well.
Like, I think that was very impressive because he just goes like, he can change. It's showing that he's a sociopath in that he can be like manipulative and like, oh, I'm just a weak little guy. I'm just your poor friend who I have no money. He can go from that to like the moments where he's really aggressive and assertive and also manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that's really good. But right in that final scene when he's looking at that puppet show of them, the rocks with their names on it, which is a very, very important thing to their family, where they throw the names of dead people into the river.
Mm-hmm.
He's dived in and fished them all out and put them on top of the thing. That is messed up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's interesting.
They do nail, like you say, being deranged, but I don't think it works for the character for him being this not mastermind, but like this guy that planned this whole thing and kind of.
Yeah.
I just don't think that worked for the story for me, for his character. I just think this character's motivations not well thought out at all, in my opinion.
I think the reveals they do at the end as well. By the time you find out he's been lying about his family, I think that is the biggest reveal.
That should be the big reveal. That is good. That works.
And so after that, they show like all the key moments from his perspective. I think they could have left it at just he put the thumbtack in the bike tire, because that was like the chance meeting. Everything else after that was like an event he was already a part of. And so I think if they had just put the thumbtack to show that actually it wasn't a chance meeting, then it would have been clear that everything else was a setup. Like everything else was him. And like whether that's what was needed for the story, that he set everything up or not, I think it would have been that little bit better if they'd only showed that one flashback to him putting the thumbtack in the tire instead of having that and then the bar scene with the money in his wallet.
That one
and
got
then
me so badly.
And then the one on the phone with like Farley, and then him murdering Felix, and then him murdering Venetia,
And then him typing.
and then I think that was the worst one, him typing on the laptop, because that was obvious from him just sitting there.
Yeah.
Like as soon as she came in, it was like, oh, he's put himself there. And then they flashed back to it, and I was like, yeah, we just saw that. We knew that.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think if
Like
it
I
was
think
only
the
one,
thumbtack thing was clever.
that one was
but
good.
the rest of them were just like, oh, okay.
And those reveals are like, they're just so eye rolly. You know what I mean? You're just rolling your eyes. You're like, oh, he was behind it the whole time.
How could he have known these things?
No.
There is no way that he would have been able to plan it out this meticulously to get the outcome that he wanted. No possible way.
Yeah, and I thought for the first 2/3 of the film, his character motivation was that he's in love with Felix, but then he kills him. And maybe that's the twist. Maybe
that is important for us to talk about, because there is a little bit of voiceover in the film, and he does say right at the start, I did love him, but was I in love with him?
Good
I
point.
don't know.
Good point.
And they say that right at the start. So then you are questioning it all throughout the film. So I think that's why he's a sociopath, because a sociopath is different to a psychopath in that they're crazy, but they also can feel human emotions, whereas a psychopath can't feel human emotions.
Yeah.
And he definitely feels emotions. Like you see him in these high intensity moments where he's really going through it, and you feel empathy for him. And if he was not actually feeling emotions, he wouldn't be able to act it that well. Not Barry, but Oliver. Like he is essentially acting, but you can only act that well if you know how the emotion's meant to be. And he's either feeling the emotions like realistically, or he's acting them realistically.
Yeah, there's a lot of conflictions in the character's actions.
Yeah.
I totally
And so
agree.
I do think he was in love with Felix, but it was either like the way to get all the money and like get the thing was to be together with Felix, which had been screwed up, or to kill him. Well, that was his option by that point.
Just a thought, circling back to the whole laptop typing thing. I think it would have been better if we saw him go into a store and buy this old laptop that didn't work. It'd be better to see a black screen than him typing mumbo jumbo, because that was so dumb.
Yeah.
Like,
That's how she wrote it.
It should have said Saltburn, 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 Saltburn. Evil villain monologue in his head.
Yeah.
But I do think, I think he was in love with Felix. I think that was consistently something they made us think about throughout the film. And
Sure, yeah.
I do think that was part of his motivation. Was he picked this target right at the start by looking out the window, and he picks this target, and then from there, like he does have to form this connection with him for it to work, and I think he does.
Right.
I don't know whether that like works for the story or works against the story, but I do think he was in love with Felix, and so like that. When I was watching it, I thought he was going to go sleep through the rest of the family to get to Felix. So he like goes with Venetia, then he goes with Farley, and then I thought he was going to go with Elspeth, and then Felix. But
that certainly would have felt
he
more in tone with
like
the film too.
I think that would have worked better. Like he still could have been a sociopath who was trying to, but instead of trying to like get all the wealth, he was trying anything he could to get with Felix.
Yes.
And so he sleeps with the rest of the family to like get into his head, and
Absolutely. The film never to me was showing his journey to get to the top, right? And that's how the film ends. So I was like really thrown by that, you know. That would have worked a lot better.
It's a twist in the way that like people say when you're writing a twist, if you think that the audience is about to guess it, you have two choices. One is to be like, yes, that's good because I've set up the clues along the way, and so the twist will be satisfying, like, oh, I didn't see it coming in that way, but I knew that final event was going to happen. I just didn't know how they were going to get there. Or you go, oh no, they're going to guess it, so I'm going to change it completely. And that's the wrong answer.
Always.
Because that's how you get things like bad final movies in a trilogy. Like The Rise of Skywalker, talk about the sequels all you want. They're not, in some ways, they're not as bad as people say, but there was definitely not a consistent plan. And part of the thing was they decided to change it up on the fans at the last minute.
Yeah.
Right? And so that detracts. Like, there's a reason so many people don't like it. And I feel like they did that sort of twist in this movie where they were building up to something and then they were like, uh-oh, people are going to have guessed it by then, so they changed it.
Right. Yeah. Great point. Should never be what happens.
So what do we want to rate the story?
I'd give it like
2.
a 2.
I'm rating it a 2.
I'm going to give it 2.5. Just because I do think they did. There are some things that they seeded well, and then some things that they just did not like seed in any way.
Yeah.
It's easily the biggest weak point of the film.
How would you feel if they added instead of having the flashbacks at the end, what if they'd have been added into the scene? So
interesting.
When he pops his tire and then Oliver gives him his bike and he rides off. What if we see Oliver pick the bike up, spin the tire around, and pull the thumbtack out?
I would have felt a lot better because I feel like I would have seen where his character was going and his goal. So I feel like that would have worked a lot better. Yeah. If that's what the film wanted to do, it should have done that.
I reckon.
Yeah. One thing we need to talk about is I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the more explicit scenes in the film. We don't have to get into what happens. I just wanted to hear your guys' reactions because there are obviously film scenes we need to talk about Saltburn.
So I saw a thing that said, like, people have been like, that's why it's gone so viral, is because it has these really crazy scenes. I think that I saw a thing that said if people have been on the internet enough, they've seen weird things like this before. I think the only reason these scenes are weird are because they're in a Hollywood movie. I think when I was watching them, I was like, yeah, this is a bit weird to see in a Hollywood movie with like big name actors doing it.
Yeah.
I think that is the one thing, like his character by the point of the first of those crazy moments was already devolving.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like we knew he was sort of losing it a little bit.
I definitely have seen more of Barry Keoghan physically than I ever wanted.
He's a pretty brave actor to put himself out there.
I'm good.
But I don't think it was like outrageous or like shocking or anything. It was just like they were weird moments, but it like they sort of sat separate to the story, except for the last one with the grave. I like that sort of fit with the story, But like he's a weird guy.
That
He's-
one really worked for me.
Yeah,
surprisingly.
like I feel like that's why I
Yeah.
think he was in love with
Yeah.
Felix,
Yeah.
because he has that moment with the grave. So he's like, I felt like I had to kill him, but I still needed to have this moment of sexual gratification with him, and so he does that with the grave.
As much as I don't like that scene, yes, it
Yeah.
unfortunately it fits, but I hated it.
Yeah, those weird moments they worked really well for me. Like
Yeah.
each one, because it was focused on, like you said earlier, him sleeping his way to Felix or whatever. Like the stuff with the bathtub with Felix specifically, and then the scene with his sister.
Yeah,
That like it felt really in tone with the character and what the film was trying to say. So
yeah.
I think
they
worked.
worked for the story.
But yeah, people are saying like it's the craziest thing you've seen. Like it's not even the craziest film to come out in 2023 with big name actors like Emma Stone in Poor Things. That watch Poor Things and you'll see some crazy stuff.
So just looking at the parents' guide of Saltburn on IMDb, the sex and nudity is severe. The violence and gore is moderate. The profanity is moderate, and the alcohol and smoking and frightening and intense scenes are moderate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely explicit.
So I've taken our ratings and divided it. As a collective, we have given it 3.36.
That sounds-
3.4, round that down, that's 3.3.
That
Well,
sounds-
I guess
Mm.
round it to the nearest, it's 3.5.
Well,
I have it at
I'd-
3 on Letterboxd.
I rated it a 2.5.
I'd give it a 3.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's interesting.
it's not the worst film. It's not bad.
I think the reason I think it has so much potential, and that makes it both disappointing, but also not so bad that like I would rate it any lower.
Yeah.
Because like it could be good, and you can easily in your head sort of make those changes. It's just
Long story short, I think if I hadn't watched it before, I would still watch it, but I wouldn't watch it a second time.
no way.
Yeah, I'm not gonna watch it again.
No way. I think what makes me really upset about it is like this film like got so popular. So many people have seen it. It's got over 1 million watchers on Letterboxd, and there's so much better stuff out there that it's just unrecognized.
I don't know, but like
Yeah.
you should be watching everything. Like
I agree.
watch
I agree.
a variety of stuff.
But this one shouldn't be overshadowing some movies that did get overshadowed.
I suppose that's fair.
Mm.
Well,
You know, a lot of good movies came out when Saltburn came out, and everyone was just talking about Saltburn because it
Yeah.
has Jacob Elordi and some crazy stuff in it.
Mm.
And I was like, no, guys, relax. But
Yeah.
that's fair.
I see
Well-
why people like it.
That was Saltburn.
We're gonna move on, and
Interesting.
you'll never
I-
hear us talk about Saltburn again.
Yeah, I'm sick of hearing about this movie.
We're gonna let's not hear about it anymore and move on to Quick Pitch.
It's been a while.
Get keen, there's gonna be a hell of a lot more. Jake, give us an actor for Quick Pitch.
My boy Oscar Isaac, Duke Atreides,
Duke Leto Atreides.
one of the coolest characters ever.
Ollie, give us a genre.
Horror comedy, like a combo horror comedy.
I might have to Google some of Oscar Isaac's films.
Moon Knight is sort of like thriller comedy.
He does some comedy. in
You
it.
haven't seen
No, I
that,
haven't.
but it is.
I've
one of the be-
watched
one of the
a lot
better
of the Disney
Marvel
things,
shows.
to be honest.
It's really good.
After WandaVision, it kind of just...
That was the first one.
Yeah, I
watched
know.
Loki?
Oh, no, sorry. Loki is like the only one that I've actually liked. And, well, we haven't talked about this, but the Wolverine trailer. Oh, the new
Deadpool
the
and
Deadpool
Wolverine.
3
Right.
trailer.
Came out today.
Hopefully
That was
that's good.
We'll talk about it a bit more next week, maybe,
Maybe.
or just
talk
when it
about
comes
our
out.
hopes and dreams.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, for director, I'm going to go Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller,
My
typically
guy.
an
But
actor.
that means he acts in as... He can act in
He
it as
can
well,
if
because
he-
he
if you
usually
want.
does.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's a horror comedy.
with Oscar Isaac and Ben Stiller. I like that.
Ben Stiller's comedy tends to be like,
Mr. Popper's Penguins.
is that also
He didn't direct.
I don't know. He didn't.
because
direct
it's
But it's
played
very
by,
similar. Oh, Jim
what's his name?
Carrey.
Yeah, Jim Carrey.
Oh, why did I? Wow. Okay. I'm not very caught up on my movie history. I'll leave. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, see you later.
Get off the show.
But he's got sort of an absurdist comedy style, like Zoolander. It's weird. Like Zoolander, Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
It's absurdist comedy.
Did he do
Mhm.
Tower Heist as well? Did he direct that?
I don't think so.
It still feels very much like his
Um,
kind of shindig.
But yeah, absurdist comedy.
But it's
So he's yeah, but it's also horror. Maybe the protagonist is the monster.
Oh, interesting. Not played by Oscar Isaac, or played by.
Could be played by Oscar
I would love
Isaac.
to see him play a monster.
Well, I say monster, but like the villain
Yeah,
is the protagonist.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
what kind of horror do we want to go for? Do we want to go for like an entity or like it, or something more along the lines of like Halloween?
Yeah, I feel like that. Like I think Oscar Isaac and Ben Stiller's comedy would work better if he's just a normal guy who's
Yeah.
had a breakdown
Mm.
and
Yeah, true.
become
Going crazy.
a killer.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
But with a lot of Moon Knight-esque, I can't, like he's changing personalities or something.
Maybe we could do that, though. That does
Mm.
feel a little bit derivative of Moon Knight,
It's also
especially
very
it being
Glass.
Oscar Isaac. And with Split and Glass.
Oh yeah,
Split and Glass, yeah.
Split is amazing.
I need to watch it.
I haven't seen Split or Unbreakable, but I've seen
Unbreakable
Glass.
is one of my favorite movies.
I saw Glass in cinemas,
Glass
and
is
I
sick.
hadn't seen the other two.
Did you
so I
like it?
didn't- Yeah, I did.
Glass is fun.
I didn't really understand it, but I liked
Yeah,
it.
that would be a crazy
Mm.
experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So we're going. He's slowly breaking down. Who does he? Well, it doesn't have to be like someone like a. It doesn't have to be like an Ivan Milat kind of person. It could be like he runs a hotel or something.
Yeah, I'd like to see it set in one
there's a
location.
hotel in our other horror one with
Oh
which
no, we're not
Tycho's-
unique at all. School.
a school,
He's the principal.
or is he the janitor?
Mm.
Or
Spooky
because
janitors.
we don't want to be putting bad things on the names of janitors who are the ones doing all the hard work.
That's very true.
Maybe he's
He kills the janitor, and then the toilets go all
yeah.
unclean
Maybe
and
maybe
everyone's
he's
sad.
decided to infiltrate the school. So absurdist comedy.
Mm.
He's an old student,
Yes.
and he has a vendetta against the principal. And he infiltrates by killing the janitor and becoming the janitor.
Yes. Can this film be called The Janitor?
That
Sure,
sounds
That's definitely
the janitor sounds like a Jason Statham movie.
The Beekeeper.
like The Mechanic. The Janitor, 2014. Action. There is a 2014 movie called The Janitor, starring a bunch of people that I don't know.
So it doesn't count.
Doesn't. I
Wait,
don't
let
know.
me look. Let me look.
Action crime drama. Oh, it's like a bank heist. It's not a horror though, so it would work.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Are we happy with this story then?
Are you writing
Yes.
it down?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So we'll pitch
Okay,
this.
so what happens in it though?
He infiltrates the school as the janitor,
Mm-hmm.
and then because it's a progressive school, they do night classes. I don't know why that's progressive, but they're doing night classes. They do night classes, and I don't know, he kills students in night classes, and then he gets a lot more confident, so he does it during the day. And then he's trying to embarrass the principal.
Mm.
He's trying to embarrass the principal,
Yeah.
and then
Trying to get back at him.
the school starts this massive security frenzy where they put up massive fences around and get guard dogs and everything, and they still can't catch him. And then Oscar Isaac tries to kill the principal one night, but fails,
Yes.
so he gets a security detail. This isn't very horror.
No, the way
Well, actually, no, to
it'd
be
be
fair,
shot.
Horror is
Mm.
it's not really necessarily the story, but it's
It's
the
more
way
about the way it's filmed and
Yeah.
scored and edited. Yeah.
I'm just would Ben Stiller make this movie?
hell
We
no.
made The Cable Guy, which is like a horror comedy.
Larry
Its
the
own.
Cable Guy.
I don't know. I've never seen that movie, but I think, based off what I know, it kind of blends both. So I feel like it would be in line for him to make it.
Okay, Oscar Isaac is an ex-student with a vendetta against the principal. After having a breakdown, he infiltrates the school by killing and replacing the janitor, and then kills students during night classes in an attempt to embarrass the principal.
He
Directed
kills
by
students
Ben Stiller.
to get back at the principal.
But there's one student that sympathizes with him or something because
He
there's-
makes a connection.
he makes a connection with a student that's being bullied or is an outsider like himself.
Played by who?
Julian Dennison.
Oh my God.
No.
Jake Lloyd.
Walker Scoville.
Jacob Elordi. Oliver Quick.
Oliver Quick.
I don't know.
One of the worst character names.
Some bless you. Some nondescript child actor that
Doesn't have to be a child actor.
is this a high school or is it a primary school?
High school.
Okay, we'll make it a high school.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Could also be like
If he has a vendetta against the principal from primary school, he was a bad kid.
Yeah. Or he's like 19.
It could be an old actor that has just failed a lot of grades. De Niro's in there.
They don't
stuck there for
they
a
don't
while.
bond over hatred of the principal, but a hatred of being ostracized
Yeah.
or
Mm.
being they both.
We could get
ostracized.
14-year-old Sigourney Weaver in there.
Like an avatar.
We'll just
Yeah.
have her as an avatar.
Just Kiri, just Avatar.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
and that's
There
why
we
she's
go.
getting bullied.
Well, that's
And then Ewok comes and eats them all.
that's our quick
That's
pitch.
messed up.
Yeah. I'd love to see that movie. I'd like to see Oscar Isaac in more stuff. He is.
I don't know. I
always-
reckon we've got some better ones. This is probably one of the worst.
This is
ones we've done.
this is definitely not
This
our
is
best,
terrible.
but I
We need-
think
we'll
this
get-
would be fun.
We'll get back
Mhm.
into the swing of it.
I would watch it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Yeah. A bit rusty on the quick pitch.
that's
Yeah.
all right. That's all right. We got to get back into it, but that was good. That was fun.
Now some film society stuff. We have, unfortunately, Ollie has been, he has abdicated from the throne as committee
She's
chair,
done.
as
Yeah.
president. And Jake and I have taken up the role of co-president.
Yeah. Me and Cam
Um,
rule.
We do have a whole new executive team. I don't know if we should announce them without
that's
their
all right.
consent.
Pretty big committee
but-
though.
It's
You've
a
got
pretty good
good
big committee.
executive.
It's good to see that we have a lot more interest this year
Mm-hmm. For sure.
than previous
Pretty
years.
cool.
And hopefully we're aiming to do at least one event a month.
Mm.
The next one will be a scene recreation competition that I promised I'd do something for, and then I didn't. That's my bad.
Getting off to a good start.
Yay!
Yeah.
No, I've got to watch 2 movies before Wednesday. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to buy a binge membership.
I've got to
Okay.
watch 2 movies.
Oh no, not 2 movies.
Jake's like, that's every night.
Yeah. Sounds about right. I was planning on doing that anyway.
But yeah, so a scene recreation comp. Keep an eye out on Instagram and Discord for that. I think this year we're going to have a theme, which is yet to be decided on. But if you have an idea for a theme, definitely stick it up in the Discord. We could make a channel for it. You can't like save hashtags, can you, in Discord? We do like a hashtag scene rec comp.
I don't think so.
I think Oscar-nominated films for as a theme could be good though.
Okay.
And speaking of Oscars, I'll get back to you guys with ballots, and then we can do them on the show or
I'm
whatever.
very
and talk about
excited.
them.
I've started
so
my
keen.
list of Oscar movies to watch, which I've told you guys about already. So in a couple of weeks, we will be talking about the Oscars.
Yeah.
Our
Still got
picks,
some time, but
and then the actual winners.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be exciting. I can't wait. It's always my favorite time of the year.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks for joining us
that's
this
it
week.
for this evening.
That was a great episode.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next week.
It's a wrap. See ya.